Okay, taking a look now at a further disassembly of this engine block that I'm doing here, this bottom end. So this is an 82 millimeter scat crank, and it's 4340 chromoly, fully counterweighted, all cut, forged one piece, right? So less likelihood of it being imbalanced. Of course, I will do a final balance on it. Rods are balanced, pistons are balanced, and now I just need to take the crank and have it balanced. So this is a nice one. It's got, here, I'll just lift this camera up a little bit here, and you can see it's got really nice 8 dowel finish on the end for better torque transfer. It keeps the flywheel in place longer, basically. But that's a really good advantage for when you're doing off-roading or putting high torque load or stress loads like racing them. So in whatever way you're doing it. So there's the rear main bearing there, the thrust bearing. You can see the thrust flanges on it, and it's stock width in the case, stock dimension OEM on the inside of the bearing, and then stock dimension in the crankcase on the outside of the bearing. So 3 measurements to pay attention to on that. Look at that baby fit on there. Just slides down on that assembly loops, just kind of floating down on its own. So, and then we've got 4340 chromoly bug pack rods, and it's for this crank. And you know, these are really nice. They've got the H-beam design with the nice bronze bushing in there. The piston wrist pin fits nice. The rods that I'm using are clearanced, so they're cut a lot more on this side to sweep by the areas in the bottom of the case that you have to relieve. You can't run this crankshaft without doing a lot of work to the bottom end. There's a lot of grinding and clearancing involved between the crank to the block, the connecting rods to the block, and then the camshaft to the block. Of course, again, the camshaft to the rotating components that are swinging by. So I've assembled this just to do the clearancing, and did a rundown torque on them. And I've had these apart, just making sure they're nice and clean every time I'm working around this crank while I'm doing the clearance. And you don't want to get any metal filing, so keep this completely away in a complete different area than where you're doing the cutting on the case, because the magnesium alloy in the case, it just turns to little tiny shards and flies everywhere. So anyways, that's a little information about this crankshaft that I'm going to be using in this particular block. Nice cap screws in the rods also, so you can get a really good torque on them.